The first is to think differently about how you fill your roles. And I'm going to give you 2 examples of that, and then I'm going to have you work at your tables. The second is to have a better story to tell. It's all about storytelling. We are in a TikTok world. We need to be telling our stories in different ways. And the third is to tell it better than our talent competitors. So I want to start with thinking differently about how we fill roles. We are very quickly coming to the end of the time where we're able to fill one role with one full-time employee, one role, one FTE, especially with people with the skills and experience of the one that just left. Especially as roles are changing, they're being reshaped through technology. So I'd like to introduce you to a concept that I call role deconstruction, that a lot of companies are starting to think about now. And I'm going to give you 2 examples and have you work it out on your table, have you come up with some examples. I've talked about target-rich objectives, 5 or fewer outcomes that are measurable, written in real language. Once you determine what outcomes that role needs to achieve, you can disassemble it, right? You can break it down into component parts. Only if, though, you understand what strengths or innate abilities are required to successfully achieve those outcomes. I'm not talking about skills. Skills can be trained. I'm talking about things that they have to bring to the interview room. I'll give you one quick example of a receptionist. There's a client of mine, Northrop Consulting Engineers. They had struggled to find a receptionist for years. They finally thought that they had struck gold because they found Sally, who had 5 years of experience working as a receptionist in their direct competitor. Unfortunately, Sally failed within 3 days. Because although Sally had the skills, what she didn't have, she had 0 personality. Is that good for a receptionist? No. She didn't have the personality. She didn't have the attention to detail. She couldn't juggle multiple priorities. So they decided to take this strengths-based approach, and they wrote a list of just 5 strengths or innate abilities that were needed. And this opened up their talent pool. And they started looking outside of their own industry, outside of the function. And they ended up hiring Jay. Jay not only had never worked as a receptionist, Jay was a trained dancer and had never had an office job. But Jay has now been with them for over 5 years and has been promoted twice. And he is now finding and hiring and training his replacements in reception. They've now got the best receptionist I've ever seen because they've concentrated on those innate abilities, those strengths, instead of the skills and experience. So this is how we do role deconstruction. We take those objectives, we figure out what strengths that we need, and then we start to think differently about how we fill our roles. I talked to you about talent competitors, and I talked to you a little bit about companies that are targeting your staff. One such company is a manufacturing company called Laminex. They're an iconic Australian company, but I guarantee you there are manufacturing companies here in the United States, in your areas, that are thinking along the same lines. So what they've done is they have decided that for their customer service people, their people who work in distribution centers, and their truck drivers, they have decided to target healthcare workers, especially those working in environmental services. And they've created these stories of former healthcare workers who are now working for Laminex. Didn't cost them a lot of money. I know what their budget is. Didn't cost them a lot of money. So in a minute, I'm going to have you talk about how you can turn the tables on them. The second thing that I want to talk a little bit about is multiple skill sets. Now, I'm not sure that this is as applicable for you guys, but I want to introduce it in case it is. This is a Sydney engineering company who we have a huge deficit of engineers in Australia and here in the United States as well. And this company has decided that he was going to set up a system where he could actually do more work with fewer engineers. And he decided to break apart the roles, hire report writers to help the engineers write reports, and quintuple the administrative staff that he had. So now he's able to do more engineering work and he's able to grow. So we need to think differently. If you deconstruct your roles, you can also think about how you can hire temps or contractors, not to do the whole role, but just pieces of the role, and of course, automation. So now